Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to ask the question of, should you buy the Nintendo Switch OLED model? It is a new version of the Nintendo Switch, a new model which has gone and been revealed earlier today. And we did a video about whether you should buy the Nintendo Switch Lite. So I figured we should probably do a video as to whether you should buy this one. So let's have a gander, shall we? There are a few changes, however, it isn't a more powerful machine. It is not gonna actually boost your games in that regard. It's not like the new Nintendo 3DS that actually had more power and could play some games better. It could play some games that the 3DS couldn't play. This is substantially the same machine with a few extra bells and whistles that might still make it worth it. But it's not a substantially different machine in terms of power. We've also not been told anything about battery life as far as I am aware. If that is incorrect, please do let me know. So, what is different? Well, the big selling point is it's got a better screen. I mean, it's right there in the name. They call it the OLED model. It's got an OLED screen. Now, I'm not going to go into huge technical jargon here. Basically, it is a better screen. It's got more vivid colors, they tell us. It is just a better standard of screen. But it's also removed the bezel and is ever so slightly bigger. So whereas the regular Nintendo Switch has a 6.2-inch screen, the OLED screen is actually 7 inches. Now, the difference essentially is they've taken away the bezel. That black border that goes around the screen is gone on this new model. Well, I say gone, I mean substantially smaller. And you've actually ended up there with more visible screen. I believe it is actually the same size in terms of the pane of glass, but the amount that is actually used as a visible screen has increased. This is a very, very good thing. It is going to make a big difference. And I know it's gone from 6.2 inches to 7, but that is actually a pretty significant increase when you actually get it in your hands. It is going to feel like it's got a bigger, better screen. Obviously, this is only a deal in handheld mode. When you dock it, that is not going to make a difference. If you are predominantly a handheld player like I am, this is going to be a reason to go and buy it. It is very, very cool. It's not huge. It's not, I believe, going to make the actual Switch bigger. What it is going to do is just look a lot cooler, and it's going to look a bit bigger, and it's going to be awesome. Another big-ish change which has happened is that the internal storage has been upped from 32 gigs to 64 gigs. Which sounds good. It's honestly largely irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. Now, don't get me wrong, 32 extra gigs, double the amount of memory is good. But here, if you play downloadable games, 64 gigs isn't enough. I have got games on my Switch, I've got multiple which are around 10 gigs, and then there's like the NBA ones which are about 45 gigs, because what is going on with the compression here? Seriously. So, yeah. If you've got a Switch already, you will probably know the internal storage isn't good enough. Like, not even close. So, I'm not sure it really matters, to be perfectly honest with you. Don't get me wrong, going up to 64 gig is lovely, but you're still going to need to go and buy a memory card, I would imagine, sooner rather than later, so I'm honestly not particularly worried about this. I don't think this is particularly a selling point. Now, we are told that there is better sound, but I'm not 100% sure what that actually means. It's described on the website as onboard speakers with enhanced audio, enjoy clear sound when playing in handheld or tabletop modes. It's hard to judge that until we actually have the Switch and can play it. Clearly they think the sound is better, they are using it as a selling point. Clearly, it is still not going to be anything like having a decent pair of headphones, and there is a decent chance that a lot of you watching are used to playing the Switch with a decent pair of headphones. Obviously, if you dock the Switch, this is going to be largely irrelevant. So this is only going to be if you're using it handheld without headphones or in tabletop mode, and it might be awesome, but I don't know if I'm ready to use this as an actual reason to buy it, given that we don't really know what it's like. And as lame as this might sound, and I apologise if it does, for me, one of the big selling points here, it's got a new stand. It's got an adjustable stand, which is much, much larger. If you have had a Nintendo Switch for more than a couple of months, your stand probably flops out the back or is broken off altogether. The chances that your stand actually clips in like it did when you bought it is extremely low. Even if it does still clip in like it should, it is a very thin, flimsy stand, and it actually, if you put it flat on a table, it's a way, for me at least, the angle means I can barely see what I'm doing. Here, we've got an adjustable stand, and it's actually the width of the Switch. Why it wasn't like this all along, I have no idea. The stand on the Nintendo Switch, honestly, as far as I'm concerned, the regular Switch, it might as well not be there. It is pointless. This makes it look like it's got an actual functioning stand. For me, that is a huge selling point. But not as huge as an Ethernet port. It's actually got an Ethernet port. Now, again, there is a question of why didn't it have an Ethernet port when it launched. To me, that was always a gigantic glaring omission, because I'm one of those nerds that likes to plug my devices in so I've got stable internet. When I'm gaming on my PlayStation or Xbox, it's plugged in. When I'm using my desktop, it's hardwired in. My Switch, I'm there stuck on the Wi-Fi, and when I'm handheld gaming, it's still not going to make a difference, but now we actually have an option. Now, it does say in the FAQ very clearly, you can use an old Nintendo Switch, an existing one, a regular one, call it what you will. You can actually use one of those in the new dock. I'm not sure how you get in the new dock without buying the new Switch, but if it ever comes down to it, you can use an old Switch in a new dock, and you'll have the Ethernet port. And it works the other way around as well. The new Switch will go in an old dock, but again, I don't know why you really would, because then you wouldn't have the Ethernet port. And unless something's going on, which I haven't been told, there's still no option to buy just the Switch or just the dock. You do have to still buy them as a pair. I think for me, the stand and the Ethernet port, these are arguably the biggest, best differences from the original Switch. And also, they both blatantly should have been there all along, but they're here now, I suppose. Now, those are generally the big differences. We've got the better screen, more memory, better sound, better stand, and an Ethernet port. And it's up to you really to decide now whether you think that's good enough. For me, straight out the bat, I am probably going to get one of these. I play predominantly in handheld mode, so the bigger screen, or the better screen, and the better sound is going to really, really help. The more memory I still think is largely irrelevant. You're going to need an SD card sooner rather than later. And there are still times when I dock it, and the Ethernet port is going to come in super handy. If you're playing in handheld mode, the Ethernet port is going to basically be irrelevant. If you're playing docked, the screen, the sound, they are going to be irrelevant. For me, they have done just enough to make this worth buying. But I want to be super clear. This is not an essential purchase. There are not going to be any games where you have to get the new LED Switch to actually play. It is not like the new Nintendo 3DS, where you legitimately had to buy it to play certain games. It is a slightly fancier version with a few quality of life improvements. Some of you are going to go, hang on a second, an Ethernet port where I want to play my Switch, the Wi-Fi signal is terrible, that's amazing, and that'll be enough to sell you on it instantly. Others of you are going to look at this and go, I'm not spending out for a new Switch when my old one is fine, and this is just the same one with a few bells and whistles. Both of those are perfectly valid viewpoints. I can't really argue with it too much at all. I like to think I've laid it out for you. For me, my conclusion comes down to, I want the better screen, I want the better sound, I want the better stand, I want the Ethernet port, I am gonna buy one of these, but it is pretty much the definition of an inessential purchase, unless you're one of those players that desperately needs an Ethernet port, etc. Now, there are going to be two options available. You're going to be able to buy the white model. This is essentially the default. And then you've got the blue and red neon. What is really cool is they've actually changed the color of the dock on the white one, which for me is enough to sell it, because I just think that new dock looks really, really cool. The last question I want to ask, and I did put this in the title, is there going to be a Pokemon Special Edition? And obviously, right, I don't have an answer. If we had an answer, we would have an answer, as dumb as that sounds. But for me, it's got to be coming, right? Because the initial Switch, we got that version with Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu. And then the Switch Lite, we got that special version with Zacian and Zamazenta from Sword and Shield. So now we got a third version of the Switch, and we got a third version of quote-unquote main series games coming later this year. That is Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, or maybe Legends Arceus at the beginning of next year. You've got to think at some point there will be a special edition Switch. Do, however, please bear in mind there is a chip shortage at the moment, which is affecting the production of things like video game consoles. So there is every possibility one is planned, but they're waiting for availability to increase of these chips before they actually go full bore. It is worth noting the special edition Sword and Shield Switch Lite was announced at the same time as the regular Switch Lite, so I think we can say there isn't one coming in the very near future, but I would honestly be surprised if we got a couple years down the line and there wasn't a Pokemon version coming. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you need to know about the new Switch. I like it. I'm going to buy it. But it is a cool version of an existing product. It's not really a new product. But I'd love to hear what you think about it, and I'd love to know whether you're going to buy this or not. So go nuts in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.